Look at your electric bill, not the total. Look at what's hiding inside it. Somewhere in that number is money you spent on appliances that weren't running, on devices sitting perfectly still in the dark, on machines waiting patiently for you to return and charging you for the privilege of waiting. In the United States alone, idle electronics drain an estimated $19 billion worth of electricity every single year. Not from running appliances, from sleeping ones, from things plugged into walls, drawing power, doing absolutely nothing useful. Your television, your microwave, your game console, your laptop charger, your coffee maker with its little glowing clock. Each one pulling a quiet, invisible current every hour of every day, whether you are home or not, whether you are awake or asleep, whether you are even in the same country. Electricians have a name for it: phantom load, vampire power, standby draw. And for decades, the solution most energy experts recommended was simple: unplug things when you aren't using them. Turn off power strips, walk around the house each night, check every outlet, develop habits that most people, honestly, never quite manage to keep. Then Japanese engineers looked at that problem and asked a different question entirely. What if the outlet itself became smarter than the habit? If you found this channel and this idea speaks to you, do me a favor right now, hit that like button and subscribe to Lost Tech Vault. We find the ideas that got buried, the solutions that never made it into mainstream advertising, and the quiet engineering wisdom that saves real money for real people. Now let's get back to that $11 plug. Travel to a modest apartment in Osaka, an older neighborhood, narrow streets, small balconies draped with laundry. Inside, a retired schoolteacher named Hiroshi manages his electricity bill with unusual precision. Not because he is obsessive, not because he installed expensive smart home systems, but because every outlet in his apartment has one small device sitting between the plug and the wall. A smart timer plug. $11 fits in a jacket pocket, takes roughly 5 minutes to install, and install is almost too strong a word for it. You press it into an outlet, you twist a small dial, you set 2 numbers: when power starts, when power stops. That is everything. Hiroshi pays roughly a third of what his neighbors pay for electricity. He has for years. When visitors ask why his bills are so low, he points at those small white devices and says something that, translated loosely, becomes, "Don't pay for time you don't use." Simple, almost obvious, and yet almost nobody in the Western world does it. Here is why it works. Most household appliances have 2 modes most owners don't consciously think about. There is the mode where the appliance is actively doing something: heating, cooling, spinning, displaying. And there is the mode where the appliance is simply present, plugged in, waiting. That waiting mode is not free. A television in standby uses between 1 and 5 watts continuously. A cable box, famously, often uses nearly as much power sitting idle as it does during a program. A desktop computer left in sleep mode draws power all night. A gaming console waiting for a voice command can consume more electricity annually than a full-size refrigerator. Multiply these small, invisible draws across an average household. Across a full year, the numbers become uncomfortable. Studies from Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory found that standby power can account for 5 to 10% of residential electricity use in typical American homes. Other researchers have found figures closer to 20% in households with older electronics and charging equipment left perpetually plugged in. Some energy auditors working with homes full of modern smart devices have documented phantom loads exceeding 40% of total consumption. 40%. Not from running appliances, from waiting ones. The smart timer plug attacks this problem with quiet, mechanical logic. It doesn't require an app. It doesn't need a Wi-Fi connection. It doesn't send data to servers or require a subscription. It has no firmware to update, no compatibility requirements, no hub, no bridge, no ecosystem to join. It has a dial and a clock. You decide when your device should receive power. You decide when it should stop. At those times, the plug opens or closes the circuit. The appliance never knows, the outlet never knows. The only thing that changes is your bill. Consider the coffee maker. Most households program a coffee maker the night before. The machine sits fully ready, warming element drawing trace current, clock glowing on the counter, from 10 in the evening until 6 in the morning. 8 hours of standby for a device used for perhaps 20 minutes. A timer plug fixes this without changing the habit. Set it to activate at 5:45. The coffee maker powers on, ready to brew right when you need it. At 9 in the morning, after the last cup is poured, the plug cuts power automatically. No standby, no phantom draw, no forgotten switch. The coffee maker doesn't know anything changed. Neither does the household routine, but the electricity does. The Japanese approach to this technology is worth understanding because it's different from how most Western consumers think about it. In Japan, the smart timer plug was never marketed as a gadget. It was never sold as part of a smart home ecosystem. It was never positioned as the first product in a product line. It was sold as a tool, like a wrench or a measuring tape. You buy it because you have a specific problem. You install it. It solves the problem. Years pass. It continues solving the problem. Japanese hardware stores stock them alongside extension cords and fuse replacements. Not in a technology aisle, in the practical aisle. Among the things people reach for when something in the house needs fixing, that framing matters more than it might seem. When a device is a gadget, you evaluate it by how interesting it is, how many features it has, whether it connects to your phone. When a device is a tool, you evaluate it by whether it does the one job it was purchased to do, reliably, without drama, year after year. The smart timer plug is unambiguously a tool. The mechanical ones especially, no battery, no software, no connection required, have documented lifespans of 10 to 15 years of continuous operation. The cost, spread across that lifespan, becomes nearly invisible. The savings compounded across that same period become genuinely significant. Let's make this concrete. An average American household spends approximately $1,400 per year on electricity. If phantom load accounts for even 15% of that, conservative by most measurements, that's $210 leaving the house annually to power devices that aren't actively doing anything. At $11 per plug, and with most households requiring between 4 and 8 strategically placed plugs to address the major standby offenders, total investment cites somewhere between $44 and $88. Payback period, measured in weeks, not years. The appliances worth targeting first are the ones with the longest daily standby windows and the highest idle draw. Cable and satellite boxes, if you still have them, are frequently the single worst offenders in a home. Gaming consoles, particularly older generations, are close behind. Desktop computers left in sleep mode overnight. Entertainment systems with multiple components, receiver, streaming device, subwoofer, all drawing current while waiting for a remote signal that may not come until tomorrow evening. A single timer plug on an entertainment center, cutting power during the 8 hours the household is asleep, can eliminate between $30 and $60 of phantom draw annually. Alone. One plug, one outlet, one dial setting. There is something worth sitting with here beyond the math. The smart timer plug represents a category of solution that rarely appears in advertising. It is too inexpensive to support a marketing budget. It generates no recurring revenue. It requires no ecosystem, no subscription, no replacement product to purchase next year. It simply works, quietly in the background, until one day you notice that your electric bill has become meaningfully smaller and you can no longer remember exactly when that started happening. Japanese engineering has always had a deep affinity for this category of solution. Tools that do their work invisibly, improvements you feel before you can articulate them, value measured not in features but in the absence of problems. The best tool in a workshop, a craftsman once said, is the one you forget you're using. The smart timer plug installed and set disappears entirely. The outlet works, the appliance works, the bill shrinks, and at no point does anything in the process require your attention again. That may be the purest form of a useful device, not smart, not connected, not impressive to describe at a dinner party, just right. Next time we go deeper, the specific plug models worth buying, the 5 outlets in every home responsible for the most waste, and the counterintuitive appliances that cost more in standby than they do running. Until then, walk through your house tonight. Count the glowing lights, count the clocks, count the devices quietly humming in the dark. Then ask yourself what Hiroshi asks every time he gets his bill. Am I paying for time I actually used? The answer for most households is almost certainly no. An $11 plug changes that, in 5 minutes. Starting tonight, subscribe to Lost Tech Vault. The best ideas rarely advertise themselves.